I fell in love with running track and field when I was 13 during my freshman year of high school. Running became my answer, my identity, my anesthesia. When things at home were tough, I ran. When school stressed me out, I ran. I loved lacing up my shoes. My track spikes were super fly, all white, a zipper that covered the laces, which I thought made me more aerodynamic, and dusted with a neon green Saucony logo. When I wanted to feel free, I laced up those bad boys and I ran and I ran and I ran. Turns out, I didn't just have a love for running. I had a gift for it too. I arrived at Stanford with a plan to walk onto the track team and run my favorite event, the 400. But my speed caught the eye of Stanford's rugby team, which catapulted me into the world of Division I athletics. Rugby was running, but now with kicking, catching, passing, and friends. As a 17-year-old undergraduate freshman, I competed in my first national championship. Sounds pretty surreal for a girl from Sacramento who just started running to feel free. I wish I could tell you that that love never faded and that sports loved me back, but I can't. I'm here to tell the truth. I'm here to break silence. I'm here to call out high school and college sports programs, from coaches to athletic directors, from bystanders to fans, for too often valuing athletes for their statistics, without any regard for their physical and psychological well-being. I'm asking you to listen to my story, to my friend Zach's story, and to so many other stories. I'm asking you to sit with the discomfort of learning the price that so many athletes pay for your entertainment. The physical demands of a decade of competitive sports were enough to break me. I was 16 when I stopped having periods. I was assured that all was well and they would return when I stopped running and gained weight. And then the injuries started. Playing through them was normal and expected. I played rugby with a broken hand. I played with frequent shoulder dislocations. By the time our game schedule allowed for surgery, my shoulder popped out of its socket with every sneeze. Facial fractures, concern for a detached retina, more ankle sprains than I can count, season-ending concussion. I could go on. And yet, the psychological suffering was more dizzying. I lost what felt like my soul identity and became unhealthily conscious of the foods I put in my body. But one story hurts more than any other. During my junior year of college, I lost one of the most important people in my life, Grandma Fry. Grandma Fry was my great-grandmother, and she was the only grandparent that I ever knew. This was and still is the biggest loss I have experienced. About a week into my departure to attend her funeral, Matt, my coach, called to ask when I was returning. He said that he could excuse missed practices up to this point, but if I expected to start, it was time to come back. It was okay if I wasn't ready, but if I wanted to keep my spot as a starter, it was time to return. It may sound like Matt was giving me a choice, but he knew that I idolized him. He knew that this 20-year-old still had dreams of making the national team. He wasn't giving me a choice. He gave me an ultimatum. I don't fully blame him. Coaches are not paid to prioritize us as students, as people, or as post-collegiate professionals. We are assets, and they are compensated for winning. But try to imagine what it was like for this 20-year-old, me, to be akin to a racehorse, propped up by medals, posters with my face plastered in gyms around campus and on t-shirts, but unworthy of understanding, compassion, and healing if it cost Matt, the team, or the system anything, even just a little more time. I'm ashamed to admit that I returned. I walked away from my family in the midst of our shared grief to play in a single-season game that didn't actually matter. It took me years to fully understand the impact of that decision on me and my family. But this isn't just about me. So let me tell you a story about my friend Zach, who recently passed away. Zach was a guy in college who everyone wanted to be around. He was tall, funny, a baseball and football player, and a great dancer. At parties, I'd see him whip out these insane dance moves, drawing everyone's eyes towards him. Meanwhile, I would awkwardly sway nearby, hoping that no one could tell how little rhythm I truly had. On campus, on film, in stats, and on the surface, Zach was someone who seemingly had it all. Over time, however, I saw him transform from this phenomenal, carefree star athlete who turned pro to one who was comfortable vocalizing elements of his story that broke from this perfect facade that he showed, a perfect facade that many of us showed. About a year before his death, Zach shared in an interview how devastating it was to medically retire from one too many concussions, how he suffered through an identity crisis while simultaneously shouldering Lyme disease, mental health issues, and family trauma. In this interview, Zach admitted that he didn't even like sports. He died of an accidental drug overdose at 26. I don't want to speculate on the circumstances surrounding his death, and only Zach truly knows what he was going through. But I often wonder how sports played a role, why he felt pressure to play a game he didn't enjoy, and how my friend, a lovely guy, lost his life so early. Zach started to remove his mask, and in the process inspired me to take off my own. But this isn't just about me and Zach. It is so much bigger. It's been 5 years since I retired my last pair of cleats. 5 years since I began to wrestle with the physical and emotional damage that a decade of competitive sports imprinted on me, imprinted on us. So today is the first day that I publicly break my silence surrounding my experience. Today, I'm calling out a culture that left me, like so many athletes, to shoulder the lifetime costs of these injuries. At best, I have 3 periods a year, and I still don't know why. Will I ever be able to have children? Will I ever have a normal relationship with my body? Was any of this worth it? I feel really sad and really angry. Why didn't anyone protect me? Why didn't anyone protect us? Things need to change. That starts with athletes breaking their silence. More importantly, it starts with you listening. Just listen. Don't ask us to fix the problem. Sit with the heaviness, the discomfort. Center the athletes who've silently carried it for so long. I'm scared that if you don't, we walk out of this room and the same thing will happen to the next 13-year-old girl who is falling in love with her track spikes as we speak. I'm asking you to make space for us to break this silence.